talk discussion concerning with the introduction to Buddhism II that we continue from last week. Just to remind that this program is the Buddhasasana program aiming at promoting the Buddha's teaching in medium English, especially for those who do not understand Khmer, as Buddhasasana program is one of the 7-day programs that Cambodian Buddhist Monk Society in USA broadcasts every day. So today we are very honored to come back and to see all of you again with the same topic, but with different approach and different questions concerning with Buddhism. Today we are very privileged to have invited two venerable speakers. First we have Venerable Soeurng Vuthy. He currently resides at Wat Camararam, San Jose, California, and Ponte has graduated master degree in Buddhist philosophy from Union of Myanmar. And next we have Venerable Dhammasiri Chanthy, who right now resides at Wat Khmer, Arizona, in the state of Arizona. Venerable also graduated Buddhist monk from Sri Lanka. So today we will discuss more concerning with the topic introduction to Buddhism, as of course we have not covered everything about Buddhism last week, just some of the parts that we have included. So today we will start to discuss about Buddhism again, but I would like to start out with the very first question to Venerable Chanthy in the very beginning. I would like to know, how did Buddhism come into existence? As most of us who are Buddhists, we are aware that Buddhism has started a long time ago, more than 2,500 years ago, and some of us have read the story behind it, but some people may still curious how Buddhism come into existence. Why Buddhism? Because in the time before the time of the Buddha, there already exists some of religious practice that has been spread out throughout India. So why did Buddhism come into existence? So Venerable Chanthy, please. Your minute on there.
Thank you very much, the most venerable brother Muniputto, the moderator of CBMS English program today. And first of all, I would like to pay my deep respect to the Triple Gems and the most presidents of CBMS, Venerable Atimuni, and all Venerable Mahasangha. And good evening and good morning to all most venerables and lay devotees around the world. And here, I would like to pay my deep respect to the most venerable Soeurng Vuthy also, who co-speaker with us today. Yeah. Thank you very much for inviting me to join this distinguished occasions to talk. The question started from the existence of Buddhism, and you mentioned that we are Buddhists. We know already the background and the origination or how the Buddhism exists in this world. In the points of view, according to my understanding, I just said in 3 short words about the existence of Buddhism. Buddhism existed because of the Triple Gems or the 3 refuges. Why I said that? Buddha was an human being, but because of he see the sufferings of universe, you mentioned before that before Buddhism existed, there are many religions already, especially at that time is Brahmanism, not Hinduism. At that time, the periods of Brahmanism. And Brahmanism, there are many sects, many groups like Upanishads or some others. Why Buddhism existed? So started from the Siddhartha, who understand about the suffer of living beings. Why people subjects to decay, why they are sick, why they are dead. Because of this point, Siddhartha want to discover the realms of happiness, because he thought that there is suffering and there may be another place or thing that can get rid of all of this suffering. So starting from this right view, he renounced, he left the palace and becomes an ascetic or becomes an bhikkhu. And he tried to learn from Upanishad teacher like Alara Tapasa or Uttaka Ramaputta recluses to gain the higher normal supernatural being power also, but in the worldling. Even though he got teaching from those guru or teachers, he cannot find the happy realm, the emancipation or nirvana that cease of all suffering. That's why he decided to practice meditation as he once experienced when he was under the shelters of Jambu or plum tree in Vapa Mangala, the flagging ceremony, when he was like 5 years old at that time. And then he cultivated and he enlightened. So enlightened, Siddhartha enlightened, become an exalted one, become an enlightened one, and we call Buddha or Buddh. We call Buddha or Buddh, it means who enlightened. And then 2 months after his enlightened, 2 months after Buddha, become Dhamma. It means his teaching. He teach the first sermon, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. It means the discourses about how to turn the wheels of the universal law. So when he turned, the Dhamma become the second refuge, and he delivered this first Dhamma to the 5 ascetics or Panjavakiya, and later on to many other monks. So after first retreat, he sent the first missionary, the 60 bhikkhus or 60 arahants, to various places to spread his teaching. So that time, the Buddha sent his first missionary to the world in order to promote Buddhism. That's why Mara came to the Buddha and asking to attain Nibbana. Immediately he enlightened, but he said, unless my disciple did not learn properly, did not preach properly, did not explain my doctrine properly to the universe, to the living being, I will not attain Nibbana. So that's why the Buddha enlightened, he teach the Dhamma, and the monk, he established the order of monk, and then he sent a missionary. So these 3 things form Buddhism. And Buddhism existed since the times of the Buddha enlightened. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bhante, for clearing this speculation about how Buddhism come into existence when you talk about the triple gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma come into existence. and then we can call the origination of Buddhism. And I also would like to hear from Venerable Soeurng Vuthy, what is your idea concerning how Buddhism come into existence, how Buddhism started? You know, what is the reason behind it? Why the Buddha like founded the teaching? This one there.
Thank you for this question. Actually, the Buddha did not have intention to establish religions. You know, when the Buddha, that is Gautama Buddha, passed away around 483 BC, his follower, that is a Buddhist monk, and other Buddhist followers began to organize religious movements. At the time, Buddha teaching became foundation for what would develop into Buddhism. And Buddhist monasteries were built, and then missionary work was encouraged. And over the next few centuries, Buddhism began to spread beyond India. Like we can see the Sikh Buddhist Synod or Sikh Buddhist Council. When we study about that, we will know how Buddhism was promulgated from India and spread beyond India, like that. And as Venerable Saint Chanthy also mentioned, why the Buddha appear in the world? Also, if without Buddha, there will be no Buddhism as well, you know. So really, Buddhism appeared because of the Buddha at first time. And why the Buddha appeared in the world? What is the reason that he appeared? Actually, the Buddha tried to, when he was a man, he also tried to fulfill perfection. Just only one purpose, that is to get enlightenment as a Buddha. And why he want to be a Buddha? Because he can see that all living in the world have suffering. And the purpose of his attainment is just to relieve the suffering of all beings. That's why he appeared in the world as a Buddha. Yeah, just purpose to relieve suffering of human beings in the world. At the time, Buddhism were popular and many places were built for the purpose of devoting for Buddhism. And Buddhism started to spread to various countries. For example, for Theravada Buddhist country, we have Cambodia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and Laos, and so on. And the other sect is called Mahayana Buddhism. Is spread to other countries like China, Japan, Korea, Nepal, Bhutan, Tibet, Vietnam, and so on. So Buddhism started to spread because of the follower of the Buddha or the Buddhist monk who tried to promulgate his teaching. And also, you know, the Buddha did not, as I said, the Buddha did not want to establish as a Buddhism or religion, but his teaching is universal law. Whatever he preached is not just only for the Buddhists, but for all people in the world. That's why his teachings can be accepted by many people in many countries in the world. And it can spread wisely because his teaching is simple and also can be accepted by both young and old person, both intellectual and non-intellectual person, both by scientist and religious person. And Buddhism also come into existence because of the faith of the people, you know. If the people don't have the faith or confidence in Buddhism, Buddhism also cannot come into existence. But they have faith in a triple chain, that is the Buddha. They believe that the Buddha is really a person who got enlightenment, have supreme knowledge, and Buddha is the greatest teacher who showed us the correct way to happiness, welfare, and liberation. That's why whatever he speak, whatever he take his Dhamma, many people can accept it. So Buddhism come to exist day by day until now. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante. Yeah, that is very interesting when you pointed out about the Buddha before he became the Buddha or before Buddhism started. There's a reason behind it. We have to talk about since the Venerable was a lay person and having seen the four signs in life that all of us have to face, aging, decaying, we all have to get sick, we all have to die. And then finally he saw the recluse, the sramana or the samana, the life which is free from worldly ties and bondages. So he start off to think about liberation because he already witnessed the suffering in the nature of human life, as well as the life of all sentient beings in this universe. So it is important point that we have to take into consideration. If without seeing the nature of suffering in life, the Buddha would not have set forth to to renounce the world in order to seek after the ultimate truth. So we can put into simple word that Buddhism started when the Buddha set the journey in order to find out what is the truth of life, what is the true meaning of life, why people suffer, and how can we put an end to this suffering in life, and that's how when he started to begin his journey as a samana by renouncing the royal palace and his family life, and then he himself ordained as a samana. And yeah, that is very crucial point to take in mind. So I believe that when we talk about how Buddhism come into existence, it is such a broad view. We can put into different ways, like Venerable have already presented, without the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, so there will be no Buddhism, and that is true because the combination of everything, especially the Buddha and his Dhamma, and of course his the order of monks, the followers, and why Buddhism can no longer exist without the support of the four sage disciples. So this is very important thing that we Buddhists have to remember. The Buddha started into this world because of he want to understand the real meaning of life. He want to seek the ultimate truth, and he want to put an end to suffering because he have already witnessed the suffering in life, such and such. So I would like to move on to the next question. When we talk about the Buddha, many people have known this term, have known this word, but some of us might not properly understand the real meaning of the Buddha, something that Buddha was a god, something that Buddha was a supernatural being, or somewhat, very supreme, very high, higher than other normal human being. So what is your idea, Venerable Chanthy? What do you think about the word Buddha? Can you give some explanation and who the Buddha really is? Yes.
It's a very good question. Thank you again. If we define the word Buddha or Buddho, it means when we recite his 9 or 10 quality in, like, started from Itipiso Bhagava, Arahang Sama Sambuddho, etc. And the word Buddho mean Ariya Satchanang Puchatiti Buddho. Those who enlighten or who see clear, who enlighten or who realize the Four Noble Truth, and not realizing by himself, not understanding by himself, he advised, how he skillfully introduced the Four Noble Truth to others, living beings. It is called Buddha in the qualities of the Buddha. But as I mentioned last week, in Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha mentioned himself, who Buddha is. As I remember in Brahmana Vaka of Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha said, Apinyayang apinyatang pavitapanya pavitang pahitapang bahani pahatapang bahinang me tasma buddho mihi brahmana. So I am called Buddha, Brahmana. He said with Brahmana, the Hindu's teacher or other religious teacher. He said, Brahmana, I am called Buddha because apinyayang apinyatang, I know or I understand, I realize whatever should be realized, should be known in this world. Whatever should be known, I have already known it. Apinyayang apinyatang, enlightened. And bhavita panja bhavitang, what should be trained, I have already or completely trained. Pahatapang bahinang me, what should be eliminated, what should be eradicated, what should be absolute or removed, I have already removed, I have already abandoned, I have already eliminated. So because of these three reasons, I am called Buddha. It is mentioned by Buddha himself. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante. It is very interesting. So to take it into notice that the word Buddha is not English language. This is something most of people confused about. In my English class, Buddhism in English class, I always remind people that the word Buddha or Buddhism, actually, this is not an English term. It is a borrowed language from the Pali. That's why the word Buddha it denotes the state of or the state of awakening from ignorance. So in literal meaning, we can say it refers to the wisdom, not the individual itself, right? It refers to the wisdom of those who have gained enlightenment. So there is the wisdom in seeing the Dharma. So, okay, I would like to move on to Venerable Vuthy. If you have something to add on to that, some people think Buddha is not a human being. He must be some sort of supernormal power, or any god. Some people think about that even in the Cambodian context, something that the Buddha is not a normal human being. So do you think Buddha is as normal as us or somewhat different from us?
Of course, really, the Buddha is not a god, and the Buddha is characteristic from us. even though the Buddha is human being, but he is supreme human being. He is superior to other living being or human being because of his knowledge and wisdom and moral conduct. Like just now, Venerable Chanthy also mentions some points in the Buddha's virtue. Especially, he also talked about 10 kinds of virtue of the Buddha. Like he mentioned the word Arahant, mean all perfect ones or destroyer of all defilements. Samma Sambuddho, enlightened ones. Vajjajara Sampanno, person who endowed with knowledge and moral conduct. He is very pure person with knowledge and moral conduct. And also Sukhato. Sukhato means well-gone ones. And Lokavittu, knower of the world. Knower of the world. And Anuttara means incomparable moral virtue. And Parisutta Dhammasiri, exaltation, giver of man or tamer of man. And Sattha Deva Manusanang, it means the Buddha is teacher of God and men. And Buddha, one who got enlightenment about the Four Noble Truths. And Bhagava, one who has gone to the three world and not reborn again. That is the 10 kinds of virtue of the Buddha. In praise, Buddha has all moral virtue, worthy of homage by God and men. Therefore, if we bow down and homage to him, we will accumulate great merit. And that is a virtue of the Buddha and his knowledge of enlightenment. Actually, the word Buddha, if we say in Cambodian Pali, Buddha, Buddha is derived from the root Buddha or Buddha element, it means like that, and Ta suffix. And it has many kind of meanings, a lot of meaning about the word Buddha or Buddha, We can say Buddha or Buddha is the person who visualizes the Four Noble Truths. Buddha or Buddha, one who makes the other living beings get enlightenment after him. The word Buddha also the person who realizes everything in the universe. And also the word Buddha means one who realizes the doctrine or the things in the world. And the word Buddha also means great enlightenment, and also the one who can realize Nibbana vividly. And the word Buddha or Buddha also means the one who can destroy, or the person who is exhausted in cankers and defilements. And the one also can destroy all lust, and the one also destroys anchors. That is the word Buddha or Buddha mean. And it has more meaning than that, But I just give brief answer, and then we will move on next if you want to know more about the word Buddha.
Yeah, thank you so much, Phante. That is a lot of different meaning concerning with the word Buddha itself. So as far as I have picked up what both of you have commented, that what really distinguishes the Buddha from us as a normal human being is that he got enlightenment. He already accomplished his great enlightenment. So I would like to further ask the question to Venerable Sam Chanthy, because we have aware that the Buddha is different from us as a normal human being just because of his good conduct, his, full of knowledge and virtues and so on, a lot of things that the Venerable Vuthy has pointed out. So I just would like to add the question onto that. What has he realized, and how did he realize or gain enlightenment? Is there any specific way to attain the Buddhahood? And so if so, can anyone, every one of us become the Buddha? Please, Monday.
Thank you very much. It is like a critical question. Can anyone become a Buddha? Yes. Everyone can become a Buddha, but only human being can become a Buddha. It is not a god or like a Deva or Brahma or Mara or other supernatural being cannot become a Buddha. But everyone and only man can become a Buddha by cultivating or by accumulating the 10 perfection. And he become a Buddha at the finals of perfection. The only one way to become a Buddha is to accumulate perfection that we call in Pali word parami. Parami, there are a lot of meaning from the word para. If you want to understand it clearly, you can read in Sutta Nipata. In Sutta Nipata, this explain very clear and many meaningfuls of the word para. But here, the paras mean the shore. Shore mean here enlightened, to become a Buddha. So the Buddha show that everyone or a man cultivate or accumulate the perfection. So this perfection and these good virtues bring him or place him to the shores of Nibbana or the shores of enlightenment. So para mean the shore, and me, it is in the terms of purna. Purna mean to fulfill or filling. So parami mean the virtue, perfection that we can say in 10 perfection, started from the perfection of charity, etc. This 10 perfection or 10 qualities of virtues place him to become a Buddha. No other than a route or way to become a Buddha. If everyone, we can say everyone can become a Buddha, but to abandon or to live or to accept this perfection, 10 perfection, one cannot become a Buddha. So only way 10 perfection, fulfill the perfection properly, one will become a Buddha. Thank you.
Thank you, Pante. I would like to move to Venerable Vuthy. Is becoming the Buddha necessary? Should we all become the Buddha? And why should we become the Buddha? And how does one become a Buddha?
Actually, it's necessary to become a Buddha, but not everyone can become a Buddha, because different effort and different understanding. That's why we cannot all become the Buddha. And the word Buddha, even though everyone can become Buddha, because the word Buddha, the position of the Buddha is not appointed by any person, If the position of the Buddha can be appointed, many people in the world can be the Buddha, So also the word Buddha has no monopoly position, The Buddha position is not monopolized. It has no monopolies characteristic of anyone. If you want to become a Buddha, no one can appoint you to become Buddha, but you have to practice, like Venerable Chanthy said, you have to practice perfections. You have to fulfill the perfection to become a Buddha. And also, you know, Dhamma that make person to become Buddha, you know, with Dhamma. Like in Satthatika, one who has great faith. Panyatika, one who has great wisdom. And Viryatika means the one who has great effort. Great effort refer to the fulfillment of perfection, especially 10 kinds of perfection, as Venerable Chanthy mentioned earlier. Yeah. We need to do that. We need to cultivate the 10 kinds of perfection. Otherwise, we cannot become the Buddha. And it is not to fulfill, you know, all the 10 kinds of perfection. If you can do that, you also become the Buddha like the Buddha. Because the position of the Buddha is not monopoly position for anyone. It's for all. But you can become a Buddha or not. It depends on your effort and your perfection. Yeah. So I just have this brief answer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bhante, for both of you for pointing out the way to become the Buddha. And of course, if possible, why not become a Buddha? But it is not, you know, thing which is possible by just aspiring, by just wanting to be a Buddha, and then we become the Buddha. Of course, it needs great effort. It needs, you know, great performing of the 10 perfections, and you know, of course, to understand the way of life as it is, just what the Buddha has expounded in the Four Noble Truths. So there are a lot of requirements to become a Buddha. As a matter of fact, we all can become a Buddha when we, you know, determine ourselves to walk on the path of enlightenment, like what has been expounded in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. The way to gain enlightenment by practicing, by seeing the Four Noble Truths and fulfillment of the 10 perfection. That is the theories which has been, you know, related to one another, as well as, you know, which has been mentioned in the 3 summaries of Buddhism. So I just would like to ask another final question, I believe, because as we are going to be on time soon. So my question is that by practicing those Dhamma, everyone can become a Buddha, but that does not mean, you know, becoming a Buddha is not just something, you know, appointed by someone or any God or any other people, but we have to work hard in order to liberate ourselves. And in Buddhism, there are so many teachings that the Buddha guided us for us to practice on a daily basis, not just for the, you know, the Buddhist monks who are the order of the Sangha, who can attain the full liberation, but also for the laity, the lay disciple also have a chance to become the Buddha. Can you give some, you know, theories or teaching, the Dhamma, that one can, you know, practice on daily life so that one can achieve peace and happiness, or perhaps a final liberation? So Venerable Chanthy, what is the you know, the teaching that one can practice on a daily basis and then one can gain happiness?
Thank you very much for the final question. Yeah, my internet may be some little problem, so that's why I cannot hear clearly, but I can cut your questions.
Yeah, any simple any simple word concerning with the Buddha's teaching you might think of, you know, might be a good advice for our Buddhists to practice on the daily basis.
Yeah. Thank you. Before answering this question, I would like to go back to the second question about everyone can become a Buddha. That we have controversial until now between Theravada Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana point of view about Buddhism or about the Buddha or the Sravaka, in Mahayana, the concepts of bodhicitta, they referred or encourage everyone to become a Buddha. Everyone should become a Buddha. So one cannot get rid of all of suffering without becoming a Buddha. It is in the Mahayana views of Buddhism, of the term Buddha. Because like you see the term of Bodhisattva in Mahayana Buddhism, Bodhisattva practice 6 parameter or 6 perfections, not 10 like Theravada Buddhism. They practice only 6 perfection, but 6 perfection, if we study literally, it is like an arahant. To become a Buddha like Avalokiteshvara, or we say Ganjin every day that we know the Manjushri Bodhisattva or Avalokiteshvara, or we call Ganjim, or in Cambodian language we say Pranyang Kong Seim, to appear in both sex, male or female. Not sure about the Ganjin, but this is the literary about the term Buddha in Mahayana Buddhism. They encourage everyone to become a Buddha, and Bodhisattva have a duty to save or to be a savior, like in other theistic religions. Yeah, I just mentioned the difference about controversy about the term Buddha, that everyone can become a Buddha. In Theravada Buddhism, we all can become a Buddha, but we are not necessary to become a Buddha to get rid of all suffering. You can be Anuputta. Anuputta means the Sravaka or the disciples of the Buddha, like Sariputta, Moggallana, Ananda, or Mahakaccayana, etc., or other simple Savaka like like Visakha, Anatta Pandika, or some other disciple in the Buddha's time. But it is like a little bit different from Mahayana. So it is the second question that deal with. So now, what the Buddha teach or what the Buddha taught? I think the student of Venerable Muniputto, the moderator, learning and translate the one book called What the Buddha Taught. It is the first academic books written by Venerable Rahula Wapula. Yeah, it is the first academic books of the 8, because there are 8 academic books started from the first volume, What the Buddha Taught. He mentioned a lot about that, but the prominent Buddha's teaching, or we can say the early Buddhist teaching, it is the Four Noble Truth. And Four Noble Truth is the only thing that we can practice daily, because every Dhamma talk, even though in stanza or in sutra, discourses, Abhidhamma, expound, teaching, included in Four Noble Truth. When one know about the truth of suffering, yes, we face the suffering in this universe. That the Buddha said, idam kopana tukkang ariya satyang jati pitukha jara pitukha vyadi pitukkang maranam pitukkang soka breti pitukha domana supayasa, etc. That is, if we understand clearly what the suffering is and understand, accept the reality, and then we will look for the cause of that suffering. That is the dukkha samudaya, or the arisings of suffering. When we experience the cause of suffering, we will looking for the way or the paths leading to cease or to eliminate all of the suffering. That is the Eight Noble Paths, starting from the right understanding to right view, right action or right thought, etc. And then when we practice following by the steps of the path that mentioned by the Buddha, we can attain or we can bring nirvana in oneself. This is how you practice. Even though this is the deep Dhamma talk, but if we apply it to our day-to-day life, it is very simple for you. Just accept the reality and practice, and gradually practice whatever you can by observing 5 precepts or 8 precepts, or doing good thing like alms giving, or just meditate 5 minutes a day. That is how to practice simply, and you can gain happiness for your life. If you understand reality, it is no way to be suffer very much. That's why the Buddha find the place there is no suffering at all. It is nirvana. We can say place, not misunderstanding. It is just only mention that nirvana is where that not exist of the suffering. So it is a peaceful place and harmony that Buddha and Arahanta gains and sees without any difficulty, any worry, or any unsatisfactory or any lamentation, just only peace. Yeah, just only peace. Thank you. That is just only.
Thank you, Bhante. I think it is very interesting when you clarify this point, just to make it clear so that people can catch up with the idea that in the Theravada Buddhist concept, it is not necessary for everybody to, for everyone to become a Buddha, but of course it is necessary for everyone to be liberated. But in order to be fully liberated, it does not mean that we all have to be the Buddha, because to be the Buddha, there are some special characteristics that one has to come through, a lot of performing of perfections, life after life, 1,000 life, endless life. So, but of course, we all have the capacity to gain liberation, the liberation from physical suffering and mental suffering. That is the total liberation from the samsara, the cycle of rebirth. Of course, everyone can be liberated, but it does not mean that to be liberated, one has to become the Buddha. No, it does not mean so, because the 4 types of magga, they all can be liberated from suffering stage by stage until the Arahata Magga obtained. Then one is said to be fully liberated from suffering. But all Arahanta does not mean they are all the Buddha. To be the Buddha is the fully enlightened one, not just enlightened one, but the fully enlightened one, the self-enlightened one, the rightly enlightened one, the exalted one. There are so many names for the fully enlightened Buddha. So just to clarify that point, and I would like to move back to Venerable Soeurng Vuthy, following the points that Venerable Chanthy has raised about the ways to gain liberation by practicing or realizing the 4 Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Paths. In summary, the Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Venerable Soeurng Vuthy, can you make it simple for the daily practice? What lesson we can learn and how we can apply the teaching of the the middle path into daily practice in order to gain liberation, please?
Yes, and first of all, before answering this question, I also want to mention about the method that make us to have happiness, especially worldly happiness, And after that, we start to discuss about supramundane happiness. But for mundane happiness or worldly happiness, everyone can get it if they try hard to do that. For example, if we are lazy to study, we don't have knowledge. So if you want to get knowledge, you have to study. And if we don't have knowledge, we cannot have well, we don't have well. And if we don't have well, we will not have friends. The person who has well have a lot of friends, but the person who is poor, he rarely have good friends or many friends. And if they don't have friends, they cannot enjoy real happiness in their life, especially worldly life. And if they don't have happiness, they cannot cultivate the seed of Nibbana. I mean, they cannot practice to attain Nibbana because they don't have happiness. They live only in sufferings. So they cannot do that. And concerning happiness, the Buddha also mentioned 4 kinds of happiness in daily life. Like number 1, atisukha, means happiness because of having wealth. If you have wealth, it can be supporting factors to make us happy, And number 2, pokasukha. It means that happiness because of using our wealth. You can see in this world, many people, they have wealth, but some of them are not happy because they don't have time to spend well whatever they earned. They don't have time to go to visit this country, that country, or this place and that place. So even this kind of person have a lot of wealth, but they are not happy. Yeah. But if you have wealth and you have spent your wealth, then you're happy. And number 3, ananasukha, means that happiness because of having no debt. You don't owe other debts. That's why you're happy also. Your mind can be free from worry and suffering. And number 4, atasukha, means happiness because of not committing any wrongs. Even that you don't commit wrongs against religious law and social law, like that. So we need to have this 4 kind of happiness in daily life. And if you want to get rid of all suffering and attain true happiness in supramundane state, we need to understand the Four Noble Truths. Like Venerable Sanity also mentions some points in the Four Noble Truths. Most of people, they are suffering because of they don't understand these Four Noble Truths actually. For example, the Buddha said the truth of suffering, dukkha satya. For example, when we have physical body, we have suffering. And what is the suffering because of having physical body? When actually we have physical body, we have old age, sickness, and death. These are the suffering of the physical body. And other suffering is mental suffering. Mental suffering refers to grief, lamentation, worries, and so on. These are suffering of our mental state. And surely when we have physical body, we call dukkha satya. We really have suffering. And samudaya satya, Buddhasasana means the truth of the sufferings that is referred to craving and ignorance. You know, people have suffering because of they have craving and ignorance. For example, you want to get a very nice cars or very good homes or villa like that, and you try to work hard to get money. And before you get money to buy house or modern car, you need to work so hard. And that is the suffering caused by your craving, right? So if you have less craving, you also have less suffering. But if you have a lot of craving, you also have a lot of suffering in your life. And also ignorance. People who has ignorance, they commit a lot of bad things in their life. That's why they need guidance from the learned person to tell them the right ways should be practiced or should be done, and the wrong way should not be done, and so on. So ignorant person need guidance from other. And in order to get rid of ignorance is not easy. You need to practice vipassana to see things as they really are. Yeah. And also Satya number 3, Nirodha Satya, means the truth of the cessation of suffering. It means that if we want to eliminate sufferings, we need to also get rid of craving and ignorance. And we should realize about that. Yeah. And number 4, suffering, that is Magga Satya, means the truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering, and it's referred to Eightfold Path, like the path that lead to liberate us from all kinds of suffering. We need to follow these 8 kinds of paths. I mean, right thought, right understanding, right speech, right livelihood, right action, right mindfulness, and so on. We need to follow these steps or these factors like the Buddha did. Then we can liberate ourselves from suffering. So we need to understand this Four Noble Truths first. What is the true suffering? What is the cause of suffering? We need to understand like that. And what is the way of the cessation of suffering? And what is the way that lead to cessation of suffering? We need to know that. If we don't know these 4 kinds of noble truths, we still have suffering in our life. Yeah, because we don't know the way to get rid of suffering because of we are ignorant of these 4 noble truths. Actually, the word ignorance is referred to ignorant of the 4 noble truths, you know. For the Buddha, he can visualize this 4 noble truths. That's why he became a Buddha. Yeah, but for ordinary people, they don't visualize these 4 noble truths. That's why they have a lot of suffering, both physical suffering and mental suffering. For the Buddha, when he visualized the Four Noble Truths, or he got enlightenment about the Noble Truths, he can remove all kinds of mental suffering, but he has physical suffering. He still has sickness like us. And that's why in the Buddha time, has a doctor, Jivaka doctor, who cured the Buddha's sickness, especially his physical sickness that caused him to have physical suffering. you know. But for mental suffering, the Buddha not have such kind of suffering like us. Yeah. But for us, we are ordinary people. We have both physical suffering and mental suffering. But the Buddha, even though he has physical suffering, but he did not suffer much or suffer most about the suffering that he has, because his mind has no attachment toward physical body. He thinks that this physical body is subject to impermanent suffering and non-self. When he understands this true nature of life, he did not have a lot of attachment towards this physical body. That's why he did not suffer most even when he has a life. But for us, we suffer both, you know. So in order to get rid of this kind of suffering, we need to practice to uproot all kind of defilements and attachment, aversion, and ill will, and so on. Then we can remove some kind of suffering in our daily life, even though we have not attained enlightenment as the Buddha. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhante Sangwati, for very detailed elaboration concerning with the way in which we all can daily practice to attain the liberation from suffering, and of course through the practicing or realizing the Four Noble Truths, understanding that life has suffering, has problem, and understanding the root cause of the problem and the way leading to the cessation of the problem. Very much taught in the Noble Eightfold Path. So we don't have much time to mention in detail about this. Just a brief summary, you know, concerning with this topic. We actually have a lot of questions and a lot of ideas around this topic, introduction to Buddhism, but because of the time constraint, so we just pointed out some of the questions in which we should understand and study so that we have the right understanding about the concept of Buddhism and how we should practice Buddhism and what is the right way, the right path that leads one to, you know, true liberation from suffering. As we have already covered from the very first question, how did the Buddhism come into existence and how the Buddha gained enlightenment and who the Buddha really was, and so on. And I hope that audience and viewers around the world who have watched, who have been following our show, at least have gained some understanding of the basic introduction to Buddhism. And we will come back next week with somewhat related to introduction to Buddhism with different aspects. So hopefully our audience can, you know, follow up with the next discussion as well. So today, because of the time is over, so I would like to say thank you to both Venerable Mangalajjoto Soeurng Vuthy from California and Venerable Dhammasiri from Arizona for joining our Dhamma talk discussion today, and also would like to thank you all audience who are watching the show right now. And also thank you to Venerable President of the Cambodian Buddhist Monk Society in USA, Theavy, the abbot of Wat Muni Sitaram in the state of Minnesota. So before ending our live show today, I would like to share merit to all living beings in the whole universe. May all beings be liberated from physical suffering and mental suffering. May the Dhamma spread to everywhere, every corner of the world. May all be peaceful and happy. Thank you so much for following our Dhamma talk, and we will come back next week. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
And
Goodbye
good
for
morning.
today.
Thank you. Goodbye.